it's the eve before my birthday. Yes, but we're having a big party on the 25th. So, you know, our parties are epic. So make sure you RSVP.
Yes.
Yes, I keep looking at Robin like all these things. Yes. But let's not talk about birthdays because age is just a number, and mine is unlisted. So let's talk about what I want to talk about tonight. How about this? I had a little. This is a very short. This is in 2 parts. Next week we're gonna do something with this this thought, but I want to think about this year about changing our narratives. Now, I probably have talked about some part of this maybe in some way in the past, but I had an experience this weekend that made me start thinking about this. And, you know, I didn't even know what a narrative was when I was a mere pup, or a puppet like Janice. When I was in my 20s or 19, I didn't, what is a narrative? And basically, it's just the story that you tell yourself. It's really, to me, the driving story of your life, and generally, it's hooked into other tributaries of stories that are connected to a lot of pain and suffering. And for some reason, Lindsay's breathing, yes. For some reason, we replay those stories and we make those stories the defining chapter of your life. I'm not really quite sure why. I mean, I do know why. Because our ego is invested in its own suffering, so it will do whatever it can to hold on to those things that make you not feel good, that are based in limitation, that are stuck in our neurological wiring, in our left brain domain. So they're just, we have access to them because we play them all the time. But they don't serve you. And I think what we want to do is get insight about shifting the narrative. And so this weekend I was at this mastermind group, which I'm calling it that. I don't really know what it's called. It was just a small group of friends who weren't actors. They're actually very successful people in different, one woman has like 3 stores and she's about to open another store. Like, they're very successful in their lines of work. And my friend invited me, and a couple people I knew and a couple people I didn't know. And we were basically there to just help listen to each other and support what is it, the vision for all of us in the new year. And what was fascinating when I was hearing their stories, these were amazing people. They were beautiful and empowered, and they were very successful, and they were of heart and compassion, and they had their shiz together. And yet what's interesting is all of them got stuck on the womp womp story. They all got stuck on, you know, the womp womp story. They got stuck on that narrative of their life that was womp womp. And you know me, I was having none of it. And I was like, well, wait a minute. I was like, that's the end of your story? That's one tiny part of who you are. Why is that the defining characteristic? And I was like, nobody got time for that. And nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that story, except if you're maybe on, you know, Sally Jesse Raphael. Nobody even knows who that is anymore. Wendy Williams. What did she say? What's her catchphrase?
How you doing?
How you doing?
How you doing? Okay, nobody knows these talk show hosts from the 90s and the 80s. Anyway, so it was interesting to me that they were getting stuck on the narrative of their life that isn't working, when so much is. Which is, of course, part of what I was there for, I guess, was to remind them of that, even though they were complete strangers. And I just saw them in, I didn't see them in that story. I saw them in what they've had to overcome and how much they've accomplished because of it. So let me just say one thing about that. You guys, it's not that the parts of your life that have been a challenge, that are still stuck in you at some part. I'm not saying to negate and ignore them. They are what makes you you. It's unique and it's beautiful and it's to be celebrated, not depressed. And actually, from an acting point of view, from a creative point of view, that is the storyteller part in you, because that part is what connects you to your own feeling part. It's what makes your journey different than his, than mine, than his. But we can't get stuck on that part. Well, so, there I was on my high horse, espousing all this stuff, and then yesterday, I had my own experience of getting triggered, but I have the tools to get out of it. So I'm working on this project in New York, basically, and I got some information from one of the producers about this woman who, I don't know, when I interpreted the information, it immediately started triggering my own narrative. And I could see myself starting to go down that rabbit hole. And then I had some clarity. And I said to myself, I'm not going to go there. I've graduated from that thing. You guys, telling new stories is like putting your hand on a hot radiator. You've done it once and it burned. You don't have to keep revisiting that. That's pathological. That hurts. Get your hand off it. So I chose not to go down that path. That would have created, again, opened up this network of other things that would make me feel insecure and doubt myself and not be unsure and not feel good about where I was. And instead, I realized the truth of it is that is her story. Meaning, the person that was expressing some of these things to me, that's her stuff. I don't have to take that on. I don't have to take that on. I don't have to let that part submerge the part of me that isn't a new narrative. And you know how you deal with that as you are challenged in life, or things don't go your way, or you get rejected, or somebody gives you information that is not as encouraging as you would have liked. You simply take the information and you deal with it with love and compassion and an open heart and insight of what it has to teach you, which is basically this lesson, and then you realize that does not define me, because that's the truth. So I want to end with this part, and then we're going to work on how to change the narrative. Because you guys, I think you probably spend more time talking about the parts of you that are not working than the parts that are. That has to be shifted. It wants to be 2/3, 1/3, not 3/4, 1/4. You know, it's interesting because, look what I'm always saying, just push through, always keep moving forward. Rainier Maria Rilke, who wrote Letters to a Young Poet, we all know, he said, let everything happen to you, beauty and terror, but just keep going. No feeling is final. That's the truth.